We can't continue as is. As of the end of Q3, there are 8.2 million South Africans unemployed. 8.2 million people that are excluded from economic activities. My name, Masachaba Baloyi. I'm the CEO and founder of IndyPath Human Capital. We are your guide to building and sustaining a high-performance culture. In true Nyati style, I'm going to ask, is everyone in the room? Do we have all races, genders, different sexual orientation, and generations? Secondly, I'm going to ask that we all agree that the pressing matter, a threat to our country, is the unemployment. Thank you so very much, Mr. Nyati, for joining us. How do you do?
Masachaba, thank you so much for having me here. And it's really, really great to be having this conversation with you. I'm looking forward to the discussion. And certainly I agree 100% with you. The pressing matter in our country is really, in particular, youth unemployment.
So those who don't know who Mr. Nyati is, he's currently the chairperson of ESCOM, an executive chairperson at BSG. He's a Yale World Fellow, and he's the author of Betting on a Daki. Thanks to his leadership, our energy crisis is something of the past. Now, to figure out how we're going to navigate these uncharted territories in a speedily manner, I'm going to quote from him. And he writes, "It is Africans who will ensure that global technologies are relevant to the market. It is Africans who will leverage the technology of the revolution to resolve challenges and create innovative solutions. We need to build partnerships between investors and global organizations so that technologies are relevant on a local level. It will be our understanding, complexities, and layers of Africa that will ensure that we can leverage the potential of the fourth industrial revolution. Let us not aim to be leaders. Let us aim to be relevant and equal partners." What do you consider to be the makings of a good leader?
Wow, it's a big question to be asking. But for me, leadership, it starts with, do you want to serve? We always see leaders as people who need to be served. In fact, it's actually the opposite. As a leader, you, from the very beginning, the driver should be about serving others. It's really about giving to others. Once you start from that point, everything else follows, which means that the people that are under you, your employees or whoever else, you need to be trying to understand, how can I help Masachaba to reach her full potential? You should be seized with that. What are the challenges that my team is facing? How can I, from the position of leadership, remove the obstacles that these people are facing so that they can be able to achieve what you have asked them to go and achieve? So leadership really is about creating that environment whereby people, when they come in, they want to bring their A game. On a Sunday, when they're thinking about coming to work, they are excited about coming to work, rather than, dreading to be, oh my goodness, I will be working with that particular individual again, So really it's about creating that environment. You spoke about high performance culture. You can never achieve a high performance culture if you are in a toxic environment. And the leaders set the tone in terms of the environment. They are the ones who create an environment where people want to excel and people are able to give their discretionary effort, or they are just in there counting the hours and they cannot wait to live the environment. So leadership really to me is about providing the direction, creating the vision, but most importantly, creating an environment where people want to bring their A game.
You are big on engagement. What attributes does one need to develop to be part of the A game?
What attributes does one need to develop in order to be part of the A game? I think first and foremost, many of us, we try to do things for others. We don't stop, pause, and say, what am I good at? What am I not so good at? That self-awareness, it is something that is so important. You need to make sure that you are playing in the right position. We're saying we must play the A game. You cannot be, you are a great goalkeeper, now you are a striker. You are playing as a striker. Who are you? Have you taken the time to understand that, this is who I am, this is where I could be playing well? Taking that moment is very, very, very important. So that self-awareness is key. The other piece for me that is key, many of us do not pay attention to, is what I call values. This is something that many people don't quite understand. Values for me is like the soul. It's like the software. Think about IT. There's hardware, then there's software. The thing that is the brains, the thing that is an orchestrator of everything else is that software. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, but it's the thing. When you look at the behavior of the system, you realize that this is how it was coded. When I look at how you as a person show up, I can almost tell you what are the values that are driving you. Which means if you want to change, you need to look at what are the values that are driving me to be doing the kind of thing that I'm doing. What are those values that I need to change, remove completely? What are the values that I need to embrace? Values matter. Values at an individual level, at a company level, at a national level. What are the values of South Africa? We talk about being a country that is resilient. That's a value. That's something that is an important value. What are the values of you as an individual? For me, I've got 4 values that are driving my life. I chose them. It's a conscious decision. I chose them. One is family.
Yeah.
Very important. Second one is integrity. The third one is excellence. The fourth one is fairness. When you think about how I make decisions, there is an ESCOM board meeting, and my daughter is sick. Maybe wants to be taken to a hospital. Where do I go? I'm chairing the board on this other side, and it's not even a decision for me.
Wow.
It's not a decision, because my value is clear: family first, right?
Wow.
So when you've got things like that, it makes your life so easy. It makes your life so easy. Here you have I remember some of my colleagues at Microsoft, they used to be surprised about this. I said, look, a CEO of a bank, we want you to go have a dinner with the CEO of a bank. I said, dinner? But I would like to have dinner with my family.
Sure.
For me, that's the most important. Family and dinner, because I'm a morning person. So I leave home, my family is still asleep. So I cannot be coming home, they're still,
wow.
Yeah. So that time, no, I'm reserving that time for my family. Again, it makes my life easy. It makes everybody else's life also easy, because now they understand the rules, how you work. But of course, I can do breakfast with the CEO of a bank. I can do lunch, but please don't ask me to go to, So it's again, it makes your life that much more easy if you understand what are the values that are driving you.
I assume those values then translate into how you make decisions. So you've given us a
Absolutely.
priority.
Yes.
From an organization perspective, as South Africans, we need to turn things around
Yes.
effectively, efficiently, and speedily. What values would you attribute to that environment where it's fast-paced, disruptive in nature? What values do you employ in such situations to make sure that things happen?
Yeah. I think when I look at the environment that we're living in, it's an environment where things are continuously changing. We don't always have the answers, right? We don't always have the answers. You may be sitting there as the chairman, as the CEO, and you do not have the answers. So a value of humility is so important, because you'll find that the answers lie with the people that are closest to the problem. And typically those are the people who are the ones who are engaging with clients. These are the people that are engaging with our partners as a business. These are the people who are serving, sitting there, picking up calls from clients in the call center. Do we take the time to go and sit with these people, understand what is it that they are picking up from the environment as they are engaging with clients on our behalf? Because those insights are the insights that can help you to shape your strategy. When I think about Eskom, one of the things that this new board did, something that is very strange, not many boards would do that. First, we made it. We said we are going to be an engaged board. We are going to be in the face. We are going to be an engaged board. The second thing said, okay, in order for us to understand what is going on in Eskom, let's call all of the power station general managers. These are the people where all of this mess is going on. Let's sit down with them. Let them help us to understand what are the real issues. Of course, we could have sat on the board and just listened to the CEO telling us these are the problems. But we felt that we needed to hear directly from the people that are facing these problems. The insight that we got out of that engagement. We are where we are today because we listen to those power station general managers. The problems that we had to go and address are the problems that they highlighted, and the solutions. Most of the time, these people have solutions. They have solutions. It's just a matter of listening. So that humility, the ability to learn. We don't have all of the answers. You must be open to learning. Agility. You may go and move in a particular direction, but then you pick up, no, man, things are not moving the way that I thought they would. You must be able and flexible enough to make those changes. You are asking what are the values? It's agility, it's learning, ongoing learning, the humility, but being seized with execution. Getting things done. This is our problem in this country. We talk, we come with all sorts of policies, but we do not make things happen. So execution is another very important value in this environment that we're in.
That's a good case in point for diversity and inclusion. Again, I ask, is everyone in the room? And those there are, be brave to raise your hand. On execution and implementation, how quickly should decisions be made at different levels to make sure that execution happens?
Yeah. So you're asking me first, what is my decision-making process? By profession, I'm an engineer, you know. So one of the things that we are known for as engineers is problem solving. That's what we are taught, really. You know, if we were to see what is it that engineers bring to the party, we come up with solutions. But we don't just come up with any solution. We need to have a clear understanding of what the real problems are. You know, there could be symptoms, all sorts of things, and you're focusing on those symptoms, but it may not really address the problem. You know, when I look at ESCOM, for example, you realize that there were so many things. You can be so lost in looking at all of the issues that are there. But when you drill down deeper, you realize that maybe there are 5 or 10 key things that you have to focus on. If you address those, everything else will sort itself out, because everything else is connected to those issues. For example, one of the big systemic issues in ESCOM was the level of debt, you know, that it was carrying 450 billion rand of debt that it was owing. So if you are owing so much money, think about the interest that you are paying on an annual basis on 450 billion rand. So if you do, which means as a company, you need to be producing so much sales in order for you to be able to address and be able to pay your interest commitments, right? On an annual basis, you are owing somebody something they have to pay, right? So in order for you to do that. So if we did not address the issue of debt in ESCOM, everything else we would not be able to address. You know, how are we going to manage your maintenance program? Because most of the money is going to paying interest. You know, you have to address maintenance on the other hand, you know. So understanding what are the root causes. So that's one issue. The other issue that we had is something called tariffs that are reflective of costs. The third issue that we're facing is criminality within ESCOM. You know, you need to understand, you know, where is this thing coming from? What is the driver behind this criminality? The other thing that we're facing is issues like an organizational culture that is dysfunctional. What do I mean by that? You'd have leaders that were not leading. You have managers that were not managing, right? Think about if you've got parents that are not parenting. What happens in that home?
Dysfunction.
Yes, chaos, right? So are we surprised when we've got people in positions of power but not doing their leadership roles, not parenting? So when things are not happening properly, are we surprised? So if you are not addressing, for example, that leadership issue, you will start to have breakdowns. Many people are not coming to work. You know, people are not following standard operating procedures because there's chaos. Everybody's managing themselves in that environment, right? So it's understanding what are the drivers, what are the levers that I can pull in order to address this thing. So that's very, very important. Before you run into execution, identify what the problem, then come up with a plan. But that plan, as I have already indicated, it must be a plan that is jointly created so that there's buy-in. We don't force the plan on people. People have come up with the plan to address, then they'll be excited because they know that this plan is addressing their challenges. So when they execute it, there's something for them. What's in it for them? That's what is the key, you know, because we want to push them, but you need to understand what's in it for these people that are implementing this plan. Otherwise, there's not going to be any motivation to do it. So because we listened to many of these, let's say, power station managers and said, hey, if you address this and address that, that will help solve our problem. So by implementing the plan, you are actually helping them solve the problems that they're having. In return, they're solving the problems of the company. So that's what's in it for them. That's why they're going to embrace it, run with it. But then they say that, I think it was Ronald Reagan who said something along the lines of trust, but verify. Yes, I'm going to trust that you're going to implement, but do you check whether people are implementing? Masichaba said he's going to do this thing in 2 months. Do you have checkpoints? After a week, where are we? That's verified. If you don't put those checkpoints, we will be surprised after 2 months, nothing has been done, but you should have checked. So trust, but verify. So that's the piece that is probably the most boring one, because many of us do not like to do that. Because what it requires most of the time, it requires sometimes to have a tough conversation, difficult conversation with people who have not done what they committed to do.
What I'm gathering is that the art of influence is in the engagement.
Absolutely.
You want to influence people? Make sure everyone is in the room.
It may not always be the right answer for everybody, but it goes back to that point I made earlier. You need to know who you are. Self-awareness. Who am I? What is it that excites me? What is it that makes me to, just when I do that, time just flies. And for me, I know that I'm attracted to things that don't work.
You sure know how to pick jobs. The harder, the better.
Yeah, things that are in a mess, that's where you likely find me. That's the place. But that's not who everybody else is. But I know who I am, right? So that's where challenges are, but that's where the excitement is. But immediately you start to have things much more stable, things now are running, and everything is going smoothly. That's already for me the sign that my time here is almost over. Probably you need somebody else that is comfortable to maintain this environment, because I'm not a maintenance guy. I'm not a maintenance engineer. But there are people who just love environments like that, and that's not me. So I'm informed largely by first the results, because I set myself clear goals. Once I achieve those goals, like what we have done in ESCOM, we are very clear over a 2-year period. This is where we want to be in year 1. In year 2, this is where we want to be. In year 1, that was in April of this year, we wanted the energy availability factor to be sitting at 65%, coming from 51. That's a massive change in 1 year. We did not quite make that year 1 target. We were sitting at 61% instead of 65. But
Sure.
hey, coming from
That's
51.
healthy.
Then we said in year 2, which is next year, in April next year, we want to be at energy availability factor of 70%.
And you used the resources that were there.
Yeah.
You didn't hire new people.
No.
You didn't get consultants in.
No. I'm going to come
Okay.
to the consulting. But where we are now, already for a number of weeks, we keep touching already at 70%. That's the 70% we're supposed to have next year. We're already doing it now. So to me, those are indications that things, we are ahead of our own plan, you know. So did we use, because again, I'm using the term we, because it was not a Mteto thing. It is us, together, the board, together with the ExCo of ExCom. We use the same people. Some of them have been moved, shifted on the side, made to look like they're stupid. We found those people. We brought them in. We gave them the responsibilities that they are occupying. Look at the head of generation. He had been pushed aside. He's the hero when it comes to this turnaround. Begging Ngumalo, he's the hero. We sat with him, we convinced him to come back, took the role, and because he grew up in this environment, he can pick up, when you're telling him BS, he can pick up BS quickly. When he's going through a plant, just purely through sound, he's be able to pick out that things are not going right. That's the kind of leadership you need. But at the same time, it's inspirational. It's motivating his people. He goes, he fights for his people, but he holds them accountable. Very tough on them, but fights for them. That's the kind of leader that you need. And he's the one who then looked and said, who are the people, some of the people we need in some of these power stations? It's all about people, identifying those right leaders, people who at the local level, the people that would want to work for them. They want to work for them. They want to go the extra mile for them. Those are the people that should be in leadership roles. Yeah, you didn't have to find new people, not at all.
With Bheki Ngumalo, you are the moment of impact. Accountability.
Yes.
How do you hold those you lead accountable?
First of all, I think what is important is that people should have a say in terms of where we want to be, like setting yourself goals. Those goals should not be just something that comes from the top. It should be something that is jointly discussed, and we kind of all feel like this is a stretch, but this is achievable, right? Just like we did in this, I've just spoken to you about the energy availability factor. Those guys, when we came up with those targets, they knew that these were things that were achievable, but it was going to take a lot to get them. But they were not, from the get-go, felt there's no way that we can. No. So they were part of shaping those goals, and we stretched them. And we're surprised how people will stretch and perform in line with the stretch that you have given them. You think that they can perform here, they will give you the people that they perform up there, they will stretch themselves to get to that point. So you now have got shared goals that you have come up with. You need to have this frequent engagement with people. How are we doing? Once a month. To me, having that monthly meeting with the people that are working for you to discuss how you're going, how each and every one of them is doing against their goals, is something that's important. Some people have never had one-on-one meetings with the people, with their managers. That's treasonous. That's right. That's so wrong. All of us need to know where we are, how well are we doing, how far are we from. We need to have those sessions with our managers. And our managers need to also commit on helping us, because we've got challenges. We may not have all of the resources to get us to our goals. That's where your manager comes in. That's where the serving part comes in. So Yes, hold somebody accountable, but have you tried to support this person? Have you given them all of the tools that they need in order for them to get to where you want them to be? But when you've done all of that, you need to, this is the thing that we do not have. I don't even think there is a word for accountability in our language. Is there? In my language, in my language, I don't know what is that word.
Wow.
In Xhosa. I don't know a word for accountability. I don't know that word. Maybe it's in other, but I don't know. So what I'm trying to say here is that this is the weakness that we have as a Black community. You know, we don't hold each other accountable. We do not. We can see that things are not going right, and we continue to have explanations. You know, we continue to have Ubuntu. It's an interesting value. Think about your somebody who is helping you at home, your helper. They don't step up. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't do any of this thing. We always understand them. Because, you know, of course, they had to go and attend the funeral. They have to do this thing. But it's actually an abuse. People abusing your whole thing, this whole thing about Ubuntu. So this thing, it makes us not to be afraid to have tough conversation with one another. And unfortunately, if you are not holding people accountable, things are not going to move. And you think about, sometimes you have to let go of the people. Not that we want them, but hey, sometimes maybe they can perform well outside of your organization. This is something that we hardly do. So what I'm saying is that all of these things, we need to know that there's nothing wrong with holding each other accountable. Because it's a contract. I'm paying you to come and do this thing, and if you are not doing your work, maybe you go and work for a competitor.
What I'm hearing is that being South African, automatically you have resilience and hard work in your DNA. Equally so is Ubuntu. But in this case, in this context, Ubuntu means unlocking those 8.2 million opportunities. And to do so, you must hold those you lead accountable. Leaders, say what you mean and mean
what you say.
What you say. Do you recall a moment that most impacted your career?
The moments that most impacted my career. There are different moments at different stages in my career. But coming from, I'll say, university into the world of work, there's something that I struggled with there. I realized actually that, hey, I mean, it was very easy on the education front. I was unfortunately academically, gifted. So very easy. Did my engineering in 4 years. So very easy. But to get to the world of work, the struggle there. Gee, and the people that some of them used to beat them in terms of academics, these people were like flying. I'm like, what is going on? And then I realized there's something. And I'll go back to the values. Go back to, these are the values that I never knew that I had this. I never knew how this had influenced me. But these are the values that I got from my upbringing, the community where I come from. They typically used to say, the children are supposed to be seen, not heard. So basically, we celebrated people keeping quiet. They cannot participate in conversations. That was like, that's a nice kid, great kid. Then you get to the environment of work. You are keeping quiet there. The problem is nobody knows what you are thinking People cannot read. They are not mind readers. If you are not asking questions, if you are not making a contribution, if you are not volunteering yourself, nobody would know what you've got. So I had to quickly realize that this value, something that was liked where I grew up, is something that was not so good in the world of work. So I made a commitment to myself in each and every meeting that I'm going to be in. I'm going to at least ask a question. I'm going to contribute something. I'm going to maybe take the initiative or volunteer to, these were things that did not come naturally to me because I had not been socialized like that. So that changed the trajectory, my trajectory, because people started to see, there's something there.
You're present.
Yes.
You're engaging.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Part of what you do well is technology.
Yes.
You have a way of just employing AI responsibly. You have a way of using data to inform your decisions, strategy, and the way you lead. Looking at the jobs to the future, what do you think young people, possibly graduated or not graduated, where do they need to learn and develop and upskill so that they can participate in the economy of the future?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've signed myself up for, I'm actually the chair of an organization called the Collective X.
Collective
the
X.
Collective X. Collective X. And this organization, its focus is on building digital skills for South Africa. If there's one thing, the first thing that will hold our country back is lack of power, electricity. The second next big thing that will hold many South African organizations behind is the lack of digital skills. We do not have enough people that have been trained in AI, in cloud, in all of this. We don't have enough of those people in our country. And yet in the future, for the banks of South Africa to compete with global banks, they need to be competing in that front. Whether insurance, whether utilities, whether it's in agriculture, that is a skill, those are the skills that are required. So our focus as the Collective X is to help many, many young South Africans to acquire the skills that are required for the future, that will help them to participate in this economy. That's the Collective X. And to me, it's not just about AI, it's about security, because it's one thing to have, we can have all of the connectivity in the world, everything mobile. The next thing, you've got people, there's fraud, there's digital fraud, there's all of these scams that are created. We need to be able to pick it up. We need to be able to prevent people from. So there's room for making sure that we protect what we have. There's a whole discipline around internet security or digital security. There's a whole world around making sure that when we come up with artificial intelligence, there's no discrimination there. This whole thing that you go to the US and the next thing they pick up, say, hey, Mteto, can we go and check you? Right, okay. Why did it pick me? So you find that there is within there, embedded there are things that they're choosing black people. So we need to find a way to remove all of that in this new way of working. So in South Africa, in Africa, when we implement technology, we cannot have those kind of biases, and it requires people of the continent to be there. If it is other people doing solutions on our behalf, we will continue to have those problems, So we need people that are, so that when you're designing it, you remove those biases. So there's a lot of interesting space. You do not have to have a degree in IT in order to take a career in IT. If you have just been to university, university teaches you the way of thinking. That is an important background. From that, you can build and acquire skills that will help you to become relevant in the digital space. Training, partnering with companies or partnering with government to build these digital skills for our economy.
True to what Mr. Mteto is saying, betting on a ducky is literally a corporate framework, a manual, if you'd like to call it, of how he navigated from being an engineer, a mechanical engineer at Afrox, moving on into the telecommunications IBM at the time, going to Paris and being number last for the first time. I can imagine what that meant for your self-esteem.
Shock.
Leveling up and showing up in truth and being nominated to become a Yale Fellow. And then going on to do amazing things at Microsoft South Africa. If you're a recruiter or your company is looking for executives, here is your guide. There's a lot of people that you mentioned there that he comes along. There's a lot of people that opine and write in the book. You really should read the book. He then goes to MTN and within 2 years, gets things done, goes to Altron, finds himself in a situation where he has to find movers and shakers so that he can be able to navigate the political climate at the time. There's a lot to be said about Mr. Mteto's book, but you must definitely read it if you want to become a high performer. How do you unwind?
How do I unwind? As I've indicated, that one of the big things for me is family. So I generally, spend a lot of time with my family. We travel quite a bit, and that's very, very important to me. I also, I like to mentally stimulate myself, although I'm unwinding. So I'm a very good chess player. So I do online a lot of my time,
Playing chess. You're gaming.
Competition there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're gamifying.
Yes.
So you truly are a tech person.
I am, yes. I am, yes. Yeah.
Golf?
Look, I tried that. I tried a lot of golf, but it's clearly not for me. Again.
What's interesting is you still build the networks, but you don't do dinners. You don't golf. How have you managed to build rapport in the networks in your career?
I think there is this whole confusion that you need to be playing golf, you need to do this and all doing that in order to build networks. What I do for me, it's more about making people to depend on you, if you know what I mean. If you read the book, you may think, oh, this guy, hey, his managers, they love him. But it's not like they look at you, they just love you. It's what you have done for them. You have made yourself to be somebody that they can count on. So wherever they go, they even want to go with you because they know that you are dependable, So you make people to be so dependent on you, then, it could be on helping, If I call him, I know that he's going to help, So it's not, it's not just, for me, it's not really, having the drinks together. It's most of my connections are deep in the sense that their foundation is based on service. It's on how I've helped or who have helped one another,
So you want to be friendly, help people, and you'll build your networks. What are you currently reading, sir?
I don't read a lot these days. I found that my wife is, pick up something that she likes, and now I'm part of it. We listen to podcasts, and what we have been following, spending a lot of time. The Diaries of a CEO, some of those interviews we truly enjoy. I enjoy, and so podcasts have become my source of information these days. I'm not saying that books are not important.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the last books that I've read is Atomic Habits. And that to me, is really about the small things that you do in your life. It's collectively they shift everything. It's not the big thing. Collectively doing these small things, And so it to me, people like that, that book has helped me a lot.
Yeah. I think Warren Buffett says that the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest.
Yes.
And compound effects of what you do and don't do is ultimately at your age that comes back to reward you.
Yes.
Now here's an interesting fact. Mr. Mteto represents basically the first, I'll call it, first generation that went into corporate.
Yeah.
Who then went and assumed various roles, who's now nearing, I won't say retirement, because you're still going to go...
No, say retirement. Call it what it
at
is.
it. And I'm basically a generation that is supposedly approaching the peak of their career. It's the transfer of skills, of knowledge, of insights that's going to turn South Africa around. The good news is a lot of what he's done is what we need to do. At Microsoft, you created, was it Microsoft or IBM where you created 10,000 jobs?
At Microsoft.
And that was with the South African local governments.
Yes.
The jobs are there. The problems are still the same. It suggests that the solutions here can be employed, but we have to make it happen. My name, Masachaba Baloyi. I'm the CEO and founder of IndiePath Human Capital. We are your guide to building and sustaining a high-performance culture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.